Hello, everybody, and welcome yet again to Command Point. It is the ninth day of Kill Team here. We're almost there. We're almost at Christmas, guys. And we're here today to talk about Hunter Clade, and I'm joined by Travis Cheng. And you won the Chicago Open with Hunter Clade. Travis, first of all, how's it going?
It's going good. I just got back from New Mexico, played with some of the best in the world, and looking forward to next year's kill teams.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure Hunter Clade will still be. First of all, at the event that you just went to, Hunter Clade was taken like 3 times, right?
Oh yeah, there were 3 players out of 8 who played them, and I think the winner played only Hunter Clade.
Yeah,
Or no, he played. No, yeah, I think
I
he
think
played
you're
only
right.
Hunter Clade the entire way through. He played like 7 matches. He played 5 matches of Hunter Clade.
Yeah,
So yeah, they might be pretty good.
yeah. So let's say, for the sake of somebody that is getting into Kill Team and they're trying to pick a faction and they're eyeing Hunter Clade and AdMech in general, how would you describe the play style of this team in kind of broad terms?
I think the Hunter Clade is both a good reactive team and a good proactive team. It's a good reactive team because you have really good stat lines across the board. So if you lose one piece, not any one piece is like a linchpin, unlike a team like Wormblade or Warp Coven, where you have 3 power pieces and that's kind of the whole team. Your shooting is good, your melee is good, and you have a lot of it. So you can react to what your opponent does, but you can also push your movement speed up with one of your team buffs, your Doctrinas, and then charge forward when your opponent's not ready for it. So it lets you do a little bit of everything. And that's probably what I would describe him as, kind of like a jack of all trades right now.
Yeah, they're flexible. They're really good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I guess for you, because you got into Hunter Clade for a little bit, what about that playstyle appealed to you as like a player?
I realized that I played Pathfinders a lot, and I
Mhm.
would spend a lot of points to like get a similar stat line to the Hunter Clade. And then once they went up from 10 models to 11 models, it was like you have really good guns, you have really good melee, and you can kind of flexibly play the side of the game that your opponent isn't good at, it just seemed like a fun play style.
Nice. So how about like a learning curve? So like if you're coming in as a new player, how long, roughly speaking, do you think it would take them to get into it? Like for you, I guess how many games before Hunter Clade kind of started to click for you?
For me, I think with good fundamental like kill team skills, it's probably not that much crazier because you don't get any like crazy rules heavy piece, right? You're not playing like a locust, you're not
Yeah.
playing like a recon drone where you have to like juggle a bunch of rules. The most complicated piece you have is your leader if you play a Skitarii, which gives you control edict. And control edict is probably the most hard, like the hardest part of the team to learn because it's basically like you get breach and clear like the breachers do, except
Yeah.
it's around your leader. So that's probably the thing that takes the longest to click is that you can do these really nice flexible plays where you can pick like a vanguard, run it into an opponent to get injured, and then pick a melee model, have the melee model charge in, and now that melee model gets to fight an opponent as if they're injured, which can just be disastrous for most players. So, yeah.
For sure. And I guess you mentioned the Skitarii leader. Like, would you say that that's the norm pretty much?
I've played the team probably like 12 to probably in like the 12 to 20 game window, and I've talked to other people that play Hunter Clade, and none of us have ever really wanted a not Skitarii leader because
Hmm.
giving up Control Edict is such a big loss. However, there's probably like a niche situation if you want to do a lot of mission objectives. One of the other leader models is the Infiltrator with a servo skull, and then you can take a second servo skull as one of your normal equipment, and you can have 2 people that do free mission actions. So maybe in a game where you're playing against fewer models, so you can out activate them, and you need to press a lot of buttons, so maybe like loot and salvage, it would be maybe acceptable. But generally, Control Edict is such a powerful way to apply a lot of pressure that I haven't really seen anyone give it up.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to paint a picture for you, Travis. Let's say you're playing at a tournament. You're playing Hunter Clade, and it's your turn. And I am at the tournament. I'm not playing. I'm just kind of like perusing and walking by. And I stop at your table while it's your turn, and then I watch for like a minute or two.
Hmm.
What is the coolest, flashiest, spiciest Hunter Clade play that you can think of that would catch my attention?
If I were playing against a horde team, kind of like Blooded or Veteran Guard, you could start with Aggressor Imperative, so all of your models get an extra inch of movement. Your Rust Stalkers ignore the first 2 inches of traversal, so they can now charge 9 inches, ignoring the first piece of barricade, effectively.
Hmm.
And you can control edict 2 Rust Stalkers, so they go one after the other, and you can also give accelerant agents to them, so they both get to effectively fight twice.
Hmm.
That would probably be the spiciest play, because then you would effectively get 2 4 model kills against a horde team, and then your opponent is left with just 2 gigantic melee monsters sitting out in your field. And you can do that at the middle of the turn, at the end of the turn, at the beginning of a turn, depending on how your opponent places their models. So it can be very hard to stop, because with a 40 millimeter base on open play, you can get them. They can hit a lot of models very easily.
Yeah, the flying Rust Stalker rush. I like it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that's probably up there. I think on In the Dark, there's a kind of spicy play you can do with the comms model that has a data tether, or not a data tether, like the servo skull, which it lets you do a free mission action. So you can open a door for free, pass an APL to another model, and then have the guy go on guard. Then have like your leader who has a blast pistol charge up the extra 9 inches and fire the blast pistol where your opponent wasn't expecting it. So that's another thing you can do.
cool, cool. So let's turn the page a little to matchups. Starting with what you think they're good against in particular. Like where or what in the meta do they excel against? I guess you could say the most.
It does seem like they have almost no bad matchups with their current roster configuration.
Hmm.
They have probably even matchups and then mostly good matchups. I think on open play, one of their worst matchups is probably Pathfinders, because Pathfinders can like systematically pick apart the Rust Stalkers and ignore the no cover rule that lets them move up safely on open. And then Gellerpox seem to be, I mean, Orion beat
Yeah.
five, like he won 5 games or four. I think he won 4 or 5 games
One, two, three,
against
four,
Hunterglade,
five. Yeah, I
because
think
he lost one. He lost one against them, so
he
he's
went
like five
four
and
and
one,
one. I
four
think
and
four
one.
or five
Yeah.
and
So
one.
he played Hunterglade every round, but it was 4 and 1. So with a 4 and 1 record, maybe Gellerpox are good too. I don't.
Yeah.
I always assumed that the injury auras and all the other stuff would hurt the Nightmare Hulks, but it does look like at a high level play that is a bad matchup. And then yeah, they have a lot of good matchups. I think
Yeah.
one of the things is like Novitiates was one of their easy matchups. Not that Novitiates is super meta right now, but
Hmm.
having the ability to stop rerolls on attacking rolls makes Novitiates way, way worse
Yeah.
against Ruststalkers. So that was a big thing. And then against most teams, because they can play melee or shooting pretty well, they don't have a ton of bad matchups. It's all about like user
Hmm.
error and like getting diced.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing they do lack is blast, but I mean, with the amount of bodies and activations they have, they can typically combat those hordes pretty well just with their own
Yeah.
activations.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
two things that they struggle with are blast and silent weapons.
mhm.
So again, Pathfinders has 2 silent weapons, which can just be a nightmare for them, because there's no way for them to interact with silent weapons outside of getting within 2 inches or
Yeah.
cutting a cover line where they don't have cover, which obviously is hard.
Yes. And how about like I mean, we kind of clarified what the bad matchups are and the struggles. So one thing I've noticed a lot of players really struggle with, new players in particular, or just players picking up a new faction,
Hmm.
is turn one is like a major kind of like mental hurdle as far as like what do I want to be doing? What am I trying to accomplish? What am I worried about on that first turn of the game? And I guess for you, what's your general approach on turn one? What goals do you have? I guess let's say on open board because Into the Dark can be a little samey, but
Yeah.
what's the
So
approach?
yeah, so like on open, depending on how you select your models, I think if we're talking about if you wanted to get into it, the easy combo is that you have 2 Rangers, so the guys with the hoods,
Hmm.
and then you use the infiltrate order, which means that you can have one model plus 2 other ones start on conceal and then reveal their orders later on in turning point one.
Yeah.
You can set up your plasma, your arc rifle, and then one other gunner on conceal in really aggressive positions, and your opponents can't really respond to them, so they play the entire turn one kind of scared of those 3 gunners as everyone else is up on conceal and moving around the map. So that would probably be that's it an approach that is pretty powerful in turn one on open.
Nice. And I guess like you've said already, like a few times now. I mean, the team is so flexible in what they want to do that they kind of have the ability that even if whatever your turn one plan ends up being doesn't work out, they can pivot really well as the game goes on to
Yeah.
other things,
Yeah,
and
they
those
can
rust
apply
walkers are
pressure.
fast.
They can apply pressure in a way that most other teams can't do that easily with the mix of melee and gunners. There's not like Space Marines kind of do it, but they only have 6 models, so they don't get the advantage of waiting out your opponent's activations, where Hunter
Hmm.
Clade do.
Yeah. And how about for something, I guess when you play a team enough times, usually along the line somewhere, something like really clicks for you, and it's like, man, I wish I thought about this, 5 games ago. It would
Hmm.
have made my life way easier. So, like, what is that like for you, at least, that level up tip that somewhere along the line it just made sense to you, and like, what's that secret special tip you can give somebody that's just starting out with Hunter Clade?
I think one of the things that someone in my local area actually pointed it out to me after we'd played a couple games. He was playing Hunter Clade before they got the big buff.
Hmm.
And the Omni Specs guy, if you make him a galvanic rifle, you kind of have like a third heavy weapon that is relatively powerful. If you park him up on Vantage, he gets 4 attacks on threes, 3/4 damage, P1. So if he gets a crit, it's good. But he also gets no cover, ignores obscurity, and so you can just have a model with
Yeah,
those rules just sitting around because he can always target himself. So he can always look in the scope himself. So he can give you like a third pretty good gun against, horde teams that your opponent isn't really thinking about because they're really thinking about that piece as a support piece instead of as an extra gun a lot of the times.
yeah. You know,
So that's a nice little bonus piece.
that's super interesting because I don't play Hunter Clade, so I'm not like in the mindset a lot. But I've never thought about that, and it's a really interesting like piece of info that is kind of like a pseudo mini heavy gunner, not heavy gunner, but gunner, kind of
Yeah.
waiting in the wings there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, outside of your plasma and your basically crack grenade, you get a whole extra gun that has P1 that ignores your opponent's cover and all this other stuff. If he's not able to support another piece, you can always take the shot himself. So it's a good way to
Yeah,
play.
and I mean, I guess that's kind of an interesting thing. You just mentioned crack grenade. Obviously, we said there's no grenades on
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hunter Clade, and a lot of teams like that are of this archetype, they'll drop some of their equipment points on grenades.
Hmm.
Not an option for Hunter Clade, but what kind of equipment pieces do you usually find yourself taking with them?
So I could take a different split based on open play or in the dark play. On in the dark, the Overwatch has been pretty good, depending on
Yeah.
if you think you're going to set up Overwatch lines. Optimized gate is probably the biggest piece of equipment. That's the one where your melee operatives that don't have guns can now ignore the first traversal fee or climb or drop fee
Hmm.
for during their turn, and it only costs 1 equipment point. So generally, right now you get 5. Maybe someday you'll have fewer because it does seem like the team is very powerful with them.
Yeah.
Is you get 5 models that ignore the first 2 inches of
Yeah.
barricades, which on open play just means that they're just beelining way faster than people are ready for. Against heavy AP, the refractor field is good, which gives you a 4-up save, and then generally you're taking the serval skull or the mecha dendrites, which gives you a free pickup or free mission action depending on which thing is relevant for the game. So yeah, the one I basically never use is the sense bearer, and I've
Yeah.
actually heard of someone using the command uplink on in the dark when they weren't expecting their comms person to do much. So
Nice. Yeah,
yeah,
the
other
command that's the 2 AP get a CP from like your
yeah,
comms
yeah.
or
As
something.
long as
Yeah.
it's like strategized from Phobos Marines.
Nice.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um
I think while I was in New Mexico, I saw Ace use a lot of enriched rounds, like more than I generally do. So
mhm.
it seems like he likes getting up to the bolter profile to make sure that the damage from the Vanguard stick.
Yeah, a long time ago I did a video with well before they even got buffed, I did a video with Micromancer who was playing Clade at the time, and he was really all about those, getting
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bolter profile.
yeah. I think it's interesting because it's not something that I super focus on.
Hmm.
Um, Mostly because that gun feels kind of like I'm not trying to have too many of them. And
Yeah.
then especially now on in the dark, because you can do a normal move into a shoot into a guard, the heavy weapons you actually kind of don't have to deal with the downside all that much as long as you're shooting already moved targets. So
Hmm.
there is some good play there. So don't get too fixated on any one roster setup because depending on your opponent, Hunter Clay does have the tools to switch up their kill teams a lot.
Nice. All right, I have one more question for you. It's possibly our most important question, and I'm getting all sorts of interesting answers on this one. So, Do you have a favorite Christmas song? And if so, what is it?
Oh man, I'm actually a curmudgeon. I don't actually
You're
care for
Grinch?
Christmas. Yeah, I'm
I
a
see.
Grinch. I don't have a favorite song. Oh man, got
Hmm.
one of those no personality people.
I will say, out of all the interviews I've done, only one other person has given me that answer. So don't
All
feel
right,
too
all
bad.
right.
You're not the only one. And there are plenty of
Yeah,
Grinches out there. So we have to, we represent them as well. There's going to be
yeah.
listeners that are like, I don't like Christmas music. Um, and they'll appreciate this shortly.
Yeah. I'm just to the real answer is I'm terrible with song names. So even if
Oh,
I had
that's
a
fair.
favorite Christmas song, I
You don't
probably wouldn't
remember?
remember the exact name of the Christmas song.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, anyway, Travis, thank you for joining me here today and talking about Hunter Clade.
Yeah, thanks very much, Shane.
And as always, if you're watching or listening, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Special shout out to everybody over at patreon.com/commandpoint and everybody on the YouTube membership program for us. You guys are the best. This is Shane and Travis talking about Hunter Clade, signing out.